So today we're going to have a brief discussion with respect to Trump accepting a $400 million airplane from Qatar. It's blatant uh, uh, corruption in plain sight. Now, it's rare that uh, politicians do that. Usually they, the brown paper bag and they'll wash them like Mulroney, perhaps, offshore funds like some of the other politicians. But to argue that you're entitled to accept a gift that large from a small country with definite political implications is
There's no
bordering
other way to
on
look at it.
incredible.
I mean, it's Qatar is associated with terrorists, Iran, the Middle East, and there's no justification that I can see of even accepting a $400 million gift other than it is a bribe. I don't even know why they
Well,
would do it though, because they could have done it at a cryptocurrency exchange on Trump cryptocurrency, and it's all hidden transactions. So maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg. There was cash attached to a crypto deal as well.
I think you're swallowing the narrative of the propaganda. I don't think Qatar, Iran, and all these other various places should be viewed as enemies. I think the United States needs enemies in order to keep promoting the military industrial complex. So I don't look at it that way at all. What I do look at it as there's something that is being exchanged, something Qatar wants in exchange for this gift. And one would hope that it would be relief for the Palestinians in Gaza. That would make sense. And it would, not only that, it would be justified. Unfortunately, I don't believe Trump
I
cares about
think
anybody except
I
himself.
think my take of it is that um, when you're dealing with Trump, you have to look behind the hand. He's always waving his hand, but what is going on in the background? Well, Trump was the one that destroyed the Iranian agreement for nuclear proliferation and not to build nuclear bombs. It was Trump when he came into power last time said, "I'm stopping that." And the only reason you would stop dealing with Iran at that level was Trump wanted the U.S. and his companies and family or whatever to get access to the Iranian oil. If he shut it off, then he could, last term, he could have set a deal up to get Iranian oil at a discount or um, other options that he would have been negotiating. Now that he's come back into power, it shows that he has had a plan when he cut the deal, because Iran didn't break the terms of the agreement with Europe and the U.S. back then. It was the U.S. broke the terms, and that was a power play by Trump. Now, when we get into the dynamics of why is he going after Qatar, is a real close ally of Iran, and it would look dubious if he went straight to Iran to say, hey, you're going to give me a royalty on your oil, just like he did to Ukraine, saying you're going to give me royalties on your mineral rights, or we're not going to keep supplying you weapons to fight Russia. So that the modus operandi of Trump in his negotiations is pretty much what's in it for him, and oil is in it for him if he can cut a deal through Qatar, and that would justify a $400 million plane and who knows what else, is so that Trump can re-establish the contract that was already set up with Iran that he killed. I don't know what your take is on it, but maybe the audience has some input, but we can only speculate because we can't get hands-on documents.
What you would speculate though is why would anybody make a deal with the guy that broke the last one? And if you look at if you look at the trade deal between Mexico, Canada, the thing is that the Iranians have to think about is why would you make a deal with a guy that broke the last one and a guy that broke the treaty between Canada, the U.S., and Mexico with respect to trade that he negotiated. So you can't negotiate treaties with somebody who
There's no
has no
trust.
regard for.
Yeah, there's no
There's no
trust. You
trust.
can't trust a person that is dubious. I mean, he wouldn't even pay contractors doing work for his land development companies, and most of his buildings had associations with bankruptcies. I don't know how many bankruptcies he's had. But you could never trust a deal. Now, you look at it from Iran's perspective. I mean, Iran kept their word. Iran did the right thing. They cut a deal with the international community saying we won't go after nuclear power. It wasn't until Trump, being a bully, cut the deal. I have no problem with Iran. I think Iran should be allowed to sell its oil. The U.S. should not bully it. It honored its agreement with Europe and Canada and everywhere else. Iran was not the problem. Now we know where the major problem is. It's Trump. And to show a stance saying that Iran should be welcome to have honored their agreement, we should be helping Iran reestablish instead of siding with the U.S. Now, U.S. under Trump last term put unfair pressure on Europe and Canada and everywhere else to say, no, no, if the U.S. is going to break this contract, we're going to side with the U.S. Well, Iran never did anything wrong. So now when he's dealing with Qatar, I mean, Iran is not going to deal with Trump. He broke the terms of agreement, put him under economic pressure, did all sorts of wreck to their economy, and you can't really blame Iran for standing their ground against the U.S. So I don't. The villain here, in my opinion, is probably Trump, and accepting a $400 million gold-plated seat plane pretty much exemplifies that it's, you know, next to extortion or something that he's involved in for that money. I mean, what's it going to cost the U.S.? What's it going to cost Canada? What's it going to cost Europe when a president of the United States takes a $400 million gift from a country that has been backing Hamas, terrorist groups to our country and other countries? It's not directly, it's not Iran directly, so Iran is, you know, an arm's length transaction from that, but Qatar has always been, you know, even the Middle East countries cut off relations with Qatar due to their dubious behaviors. So I, you know, like I really think Iran is getting screwed over by Trump, and this $400 million plane has something to do with, you know, a deal to say quit screwing us over. I don't know.
I think you've swallowed the propaganda again. Um, if you look at the groups that um, Iran and Iraq and these various countries in the Middle East are supporting, from their perspective, they're freedom fighters. They're fighting for their country, their land, and their resources. And the people that are invading them are the American, the French, and it goes back centuries. And so I have to be a little more careful when you say that, you know, they're terrorists. If you look at who is the terrorist in the Middle East, I think you have to come back to Israel. No one else in the Middle East has invaded that many countries, bombed that many different countries, killed that many foreign citizens in the last 50 years or so. So uh,
Well, it's you know, it's
is
what side
Israel.
of the coin you're on that determines whether you class somebody as a terrorist or a group as
Well,
a terrorist.
no, I don't think it's a coin at all. I think it's a perspective, and I think everybody has a perspective. And if you look at the uh, the criteria honestly, are you able to defend your homeland? Are you able to defend your family? Are you able to do whatever it takes to try to get your freedom? Then, your definitions have to either be equally applied, or you're swallowing the propaganda. And I think the problem, obviously, I don't think anybody can argue with that, is Israel. Israel wants to bomb Iran, and they need the Americans' help to do that. And the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and the Qatars, and they understand that this isn't good for business. That they're neighbors, and if somebody starts bombing your neighbor may start bombing you. So the problem is the Americans have to get their nose out of the Middle East, and that isn't going to happen. So
Well,
if we
Trump
get
wants
back
to
to this,
build beach resorts in
yeah, that's
Gaza
not going to
Strip,
happen either.
or
But if we get back to this gift, like there is some you know a nefarious reason for this gift. But if we get back to this gift, uh, it and here's where you look at which side of the coin you're on again. You look at the Department Secretary Scott Disick says that the $400 million luxury jet can be compared to the French gift of the Statue of Liberty in 1886, and the Resolute desk that the British gave the Americans in 1880. Now, they're prepared to go back over a century to justify, a gift to Trump. And you have to look at that and go, that's surely the definition of corruption, and not only the person who's accepting the gift, but the entire administration that stands behind it.
well, it's just the
It
tip of the iceberg. That's going to start the cascade of kiss the ring and bring your bank book. You Trump is for sale. The U.S. is for sale. The highest bidder gets it, but can you trust a deal with Trump? You're handing money to a person that is notoriously untrustworthy. So what's next?
but
You know,
here's well,
is Israelis going to give Trump cash so they can bomb Iran, or
but
is
here's
the
here,
Israelis
here's
going to give them the Gaza Strip so that Israelis can have, F-35s and unlimited whatever? And
well, who
talking
knows?
about
But that's
F-35s,
that's 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 another issue. Let's stick with the plane,
okay,
right?
talking about
Let's
F-35s,
stick with the plane.
there's
Like if
a
you look at this plane,
there there's the
Corey,
F-35s
you know
come
what
with a I can't the F-35s came with a conspiracy theory that there's a shut-off program in the F-35s, and that they can be shut down, and then all of a sudden, of course, the news is out there pumping, no, they don't have a program to shut it down. But it's very coincidental that the Israelis got the F-35s, and they're the only country in the world that received the F-35s, was allowed to take and remove the program from the computer operation of those planes, and they have their own independent operating system. And my guess is so that the U.S. cannot shut down their planes. And then we can look at what happened over in Ukraine when Russians came in and took over different cities. They took over John Deere dealerships and tried to take the John Deere tractors back to Russia. Well, John Deere has proprietary information that it's called anti-right to repair technology, where you can't repair a John Deere tractor without authorization from John Deere. And that had to do with the programming, because if you could remove the programming, you could do the repairs all on your own. And when those
so Corey,
uh,
can we get you back on track?
yeah, but
Forget John Deere.
yeah, but when John
Forget the
John
F-35.
Deere shut off all the programs, it showed that there are hidden programs in equipment to be shut down, and that has to only do with GPS. So back on top of it is this plane from Qatar has its own programming built within. So what's saying that the Russians didn't side with Qatar and reprogram that plane with hidden programs that can spy on or whatever. And yeah, the U.S. will go through it with a fine-tooth comb, but they may miss hidden programs within the lines of code. It's a pretty complex system, so there is a risk that if Trump uses it as Air Force One, that there could be issues with security. And that was my point
Well,
about.
let's get back to that point. Uh, the and before we get back to that specifically point that you have to rebuild the plane. So and perhaps looking at the current costs of the plane to the replacement Air Force Ones, the Boeing contract in 2018 to deliver new Air Force One jets in December, which was supposed to be delivered in December 2024, which has not happened. Uh, the the cost was billions, $3 billion for the program. Sorry, 3.9 billion is how much they've already spent on that program to develop those aircraft. So you have a $400,000 gift that is going to have to be rebuilt with all the security systems, stripped down to the bare bones to look for the issues that you're talking about, which is shut off switches, and then rebuilt. So that's going to be $1 billion, and it's going to
That they
take
won't even be able to
several years.
rebuild it before the new Air Force One can be delivered, because if it's taken that long to build a new Air Force One, to retrofit an existing jet would take you a long, long time. So Air Force One, new ones will arrive long before the retrofit will be completed.
Well, they're saying it has to be disassembled down to the constituent parts, checked for bugs and other threats, and then reassembled. So, uh, let's pretend, for example, that that will never happen. And who would take apart a luxury jetliner like that and utterly destroy it? So let's look at the nature of the gift, the free gift, right? Now, the Qataris are calling it a loan to the U.S. government.
Oh, I didn't
They're
know
not
that.
calling, yeah, they're not calling it a gift at all. It's a
Oh,
loan to the U.S. government while Trump is a president. So uh, the Attorney General Pam Bondi says that accepting the jet is legal because after Trump's term, it'll be handed over to his presidential library. So it's a gift to the U.S. that the U.S. then gifts to Trump's presidential library. Now, interestingly enough, Trump fired the previous director of the presidential library about
yeah.
3 months ago, uh, based on the fact that she was a colored woman, and he said her appointment was a result of the diversity, equity, and inclusion rules, and therefore woke. So he would have known in advance that she would have rejected this concept out of hand. So that means that this plane deal has been floating around for some time for them to figure out, well, who they need to fire in order to accept it. And the claim is that it benefits the government in the short term and not him personally.
Well,
So what?
I
We're
mean,
going to have the
obviously
librarian
it was
flying.
well planned. I mean, they were looking for loopholes to get the plane into Trump's hands, trying to go through the loops to make it look like it's not nefarious and it's legal, but it still is. I mean, you can't loan money to the president benefit without that being graft. And a plane is,
Okay, so he says the plane is owned by the government,
yeah, but
will
that's
be
not
owned
true.
by his library, not him. So so the thing is, who gets the benefit? And it's obviously him. And he's not going to want that plane taken apart.
No.
He's gonna want the gold toilet and the fancy bedrooms and everything else. So he knows that it'll never be retrofitted to be Air Force One because the military won't allow it to fly unless it's properly configured. Now, just recently, looking at the news here, uh, Israel has decided on Sunday to resume the entry of basic quantity of food into Gaza on the recommendation of the IDF and based on operational need to enable the expansion of the military operation to defeat Hamas. Israel will allow basic quantity of food to be brought in for the population in order to make certain that no starvation crisis develops in Gaza, the prime minister's office said. So, is it a coincidence that a $400 million gift is given to Trump and the Israelis who didn't get a visit on this time around all of a sudden say, well, maybe we should stop some of the genocide and maybe give these people some food? Is that a coincidence, or
It,
did
well, it was in the
Qatar
works
and
anyway. I mean,
no, it wasn't. What's in the works is the total starvation and eradication of the Palestinians in Gaza. That's what's in the works.
yeah, I mean, that's a bad situation. I don't even know how you resolve it. I mean, they've been at war for ever since Israel was established, and I, you and I differ on our views of this quite
Oh, certainly do.
radically.
Certainly do. Like I think first of all you need a definition of war. What we have here is an open air prison and a cage fight. You know, where one party's in a cage and the other one's shooting into
And
the
I
cage.
agree. I mean,
It's so lopsided. It's obscene. You know, and I think the world is turning a blind eye to genocide, and the people that are doing it are the people that cry the most about genocide. So
yes.
I think it's disgraceful,
I mean,
and I
the
hope the
world
Qatar.
is trying not to get involved in that scenario. And
Why?
you're correct. You're
Why?
correct. It is genocide, but when you shoot missiles into another territory and then you kidnap people as a human shield, it's hard to.
The Israelis have 10,000 kidnapped people in prisons at any time. Most of them are there without trial or reason. So how can you say that when you kidnap people it's a bad thing when the people that are doing the bad things now have kidnapped tens of thousands over the last 30 years, 40, 70 years actually. Like it's you have to look at the facts and apply the facts to the theory,
Well, so
and
long as the
it's
U.S. is
genocide.
backing Israel, the world isn't going to unite. There's no body or world police force to say, hey, quit doing that. I mean, the world would
Well,
be
the
better
well the
if the
international
UN
court,
could
the
actually
international
enforce laws, but they can't. So,
well the international court was there, but the Americans haven't signed up to it. And if they don't like any of the orders, they put sanctions against the judges. So there's a problem there. But as far as I'm concerned, if the $400 million plane is in return for food for the people in Palestine, it's a good deal. Let them keep the plane. Let them fly it around with the gold toilets.
and I
But make
agree.
them
I mean,
feed
if
the
that's
people.
what the deal was about, was getting food into Palestine, but Trump doesn't care about Palestine. Trump already said he wants to build beachfront property and all the Palestinians get the heck out. So
He
I
cares
don't
about a
think that was
400
what,
million.
what the $400 million deal was going to secure.
No, no, you're right. He doesn't care about the people at all, but he cares about the 400 million.
Well, give me 400 million. I think I could cut some deals with the Israelis too. You cut in and out. I can't hear you. Your your picture
Maybe
cut
it's
in and
maybe it's
out.
maybe it ceases.
Yeah, there you're on the air now. Yeah, it could have been CSIS. I mean, we are on the political wrong side of a few issues, but that's the way it is. I mean, reality is reality. The truth is the truth. The solutions aren't allowing the U.S. to be the peacekeeper of the world. Last time Canada sided with the U.S. was under false pretense that Saddam Hussein had nuclear weapons and we all had to go in and take over the oil fields. Well, we didn't end up with the oil fields, or I mean, the U.S. didn't end up with them, but we did sully our reputation as a peacekeeping nation as a result, because we sided with a warring faction to invade a country that turned out not to have nuclear weapons and was not a threat. It was a balance of power in the Middle East, and we eliminated the balance of power and started ISIS as a result of it. So we have to be careful as Canadians who we're siding with in the future in world conflicts. And the one thing that Trump has done is made it very clear that the U.S. should not always be sided with. I don't know what your opinion of that is, but
Well, it just goes to show you that we have bullies, and um, if you look at Canada's reputation, I've sent emails to every published email address to our members of parliament and asked them for their opinion on what the Israelis are doing in Gaza. And guess how many replies I've got?
every last one of them returned a letter saying they're going to do something on your behalf.
The only reply I got was the guy that had the automatic replies set up that said, "Thank you for your email.
Yeah, well, that's
We'll get back to you shortly." My
they call
MP,
that diplomatic responses when they have nothing positive to say, or they don't want to say on one side of the fence or the other, like I'm doing with you on that issue. I taken a neutral stance because I don't know all the issues. I know that killing people is not acceptable. I know Israelis are doing some horrendous things, and they're they're on par with the U.S. for the type of person they elected in as their leader. Um, I I think the world has to step up and put Israelis in their place and set world laws. But the same token, if somebody's shooting a bomb at you, you should have the right to defend yourself. So there's a balance, and all I
okay,
can say is I'm glad I'm not in
do the
that part of the
Corey,
world.
Corey, do the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves?
Uh, that's the flip of the coin. You got me there. I mean, I'm have the U.S. invade Canada and ask me if I have the right to defend my country. I mean, UE before my name means United Empire Loyalist Descendant, and we did once go to war with the U.S. and, well, twice, I guess, the separation from Britain and then the War of 1812. So it's not beyond realistic ideas that we may have to decide where our allegiances are again, especially out here in the West, where we got a Smith trying to kiss the ring of Trump and sell us down the river without a paddle or a canoe. So
It's
I,
got nothing.
I,
It's got nothing
I,
to. It's got nothing to do with allegiance. It's got to do with human rights. And is it okay? In the last 24 hours, Israel's bombing has killed 144 innocent people. I mean,
no, but
and they've
there's
been doing
I
that
would
every day.
recommend to everybody, I would recommend to everybody to read a book that I read years ago, and I can't remember a lot of the quotes from it, but it was called The Crystal Globe, The Have and Have Nots, and it was written by a journalist, I forget his name, but it was published in 1990, and he predicted a lot of the things that were going to happen in the world, and they're happening right now too. Like one of the things that really stuck to my mind was we in our civilized world, if you call Canada and the U.S. and Europe as civilized, we don't realize that governments walk up to people and say, look, you're going to go strap on a vest with bombs on it, or we're going to kill your whole family. It's your choice. So that impressed me in the book, that in impoverished countries, they sometimes don't have a say as to what they're forced to do by the people with the power, because they will go after their families. I mean, you see it. You see Trump down there. He's encouraging MAGA to go after the families of judges that oppose him, which is still the essence of what this book, The Crystal Globe, had mentioned um, years ago. And here we're seeing it in the U.S. It's blatant now, where it used to be subversively done. But in countries like Gaza, Palestine, Israelis don't do it. They just conscript everybody into their army. You follow your orders. But in countries where ISIS and all these freedom fighters, if you want to call them that, terrorists as we define them because they're a threat to us, they are enrolled by threats to their families. And those threats are real. And they make an example of it. So if a young 18-year-old says, hey, I'm not interested in going to war, they might rape all the women in the family and kill all the guys. And it's just that simple.
Okay,
What are you
Cory,
going to do?
Cory. Okay, let's get this back to the reality.
Right.
I am a jet pilot in the Israeli Air Force, and I'm going to drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a tent city, or a hospital, or a mosque, or a university. What goes through my head when before I do that? Do I think that my family will be tortured if I don't obey that order?
No, and the
Am I
Israelis don't
concerned?
have that. But they know they're above the world law. They only have to worry about Israel's rules and regulations, because even the U.S. isn't imposing any restrictions on the Israeli government. And that is a problem too. Like you said, it's the bully on the block scenario. Well, when you got a president of the United States saying, geez, I can have beachfront property if I side with the Israelis, you know, saying it is only part of it, doing it is a different matter, but it shows the value of life, and the Israelis um, feel entitled to that land. That's why they were given it. It's a religious-based gift, saying, that's where religion started, and it's their homeland, and I guess you have to
Sure,
buy into the Bible.
sure,
And
sure. The magic man in the sky gave it to us 4,000 years ago, and we
yeah,
can now take it from anybody we want.
yeah, the
Okay,
white, the
let's get
white,
past
the white guy
let's
in
get
the
past
sky.
that.
Yeah,
Let's
but
get
that's
past that.
but
Okay,
that's a
so
religious
so
war in that area, and
so do you think the 400 million dollar gold trimmed executive jet has replaced the need for Trump Towers on the Gaza Strip?
oh no, he
Like,
wants a land deal.
oh, I don't know.
He
That's
likes
a
to have his
pretty
name. He
juicy.
likes to
That's a
have his
pretty
name on a
juicy gift.
big building. The reason, the
Yeah.
reason, the reason Canada is getting hit with all these tariffs, in my opinion, because if you analyze the behavior of Trump, and you look at his modus operandi as a genius, his motive is Vancouver Trump Towers and Toronto Trump Towers. The buildings exist, but guess what? His name is not on them, and he's not being paid millions of dollars to have Trump name on those towers. And there was lawsuits for alleged fraud, and the buildings went bankrupt. Well, we both know that Vancouver and Toronto real estate business was booming, and real estate doubled in that period of time. So how do you lose your ass in a market where everything's thriving, unless there is some dubious overselling and lying and manipulating, and there was lawsuits claiming that. We don't know what the results were, because I'm guessing they were settled out of court while he was president last time. But why Trump is really mad at Canada and seeking revenge is the simple fact that his name isn't on buildings here bringing him millions of dollars, so we're punished because we as a country didn't allow him to rip off investors in Canada for whatever reason. I don't know if he ripped them off or not, but And they were hidden in companies that we don't even know who the real owners of the companies were overseas. So, but the bottom line is Trump's name was on the towers. He got his name whitewashed off, and that to him is reason to breach any contract and say Canada's, we'll make
Okay,
it a
perhaps
51st state so I can put my name back on the building.
perhaps that's, but why would he do it to everybody else? But the thing is, think about it
He
this way:
deals with a lot of countries in the world, and
he can
he's
write
had
Trump
dubious.
across a he can write Trump across a $400 million airplane, and
Well,
it's a
that makes him
moving
happy.
asset. And it's a moving asset, which means that you can't, if with land, real property, it doesn't move. Which means that if you get judgments against you, or if the government changes or whatever, somebody bombs it, it doesn't move. But a $400 million moving asset, just think of it that way. And when you fly around the sky, everybody can see you. You're a big shot. So I think quite possibly the $400 million plane is buying food for the people in Palestine. And I hope that's what the Qatars had in
Well,
mind when they did
I
this.
think you're uh, stretching, reaching. I would see it more as um, something to do with a deal with Iran than I would
And
with.
both. Yeah.
I don't think Trump would cut a deal with Qatar to do anything in Gaza at all. He's already cut deals with the Israelis to, we'll rebuild and I'll have Trump towers over everything, Trump golf courses, and it's, nice, warm on the sea, beachfront property, and you think it was bad before, wait till that happens. So I don't, the $400 million plane is just the tip of the iceberg of transactions that Trump and his family are going to be doing. I mean, Ukraine
The
signed
Saudis
over.
off the Saudis offered to invest $2 billion into the
Yeah,
U.S. It's just part of the deal, right? They've given him a golf course with his trademark hotel on it
yeah.
in Saudi. I mean, they've gone over backwards to give him a lot of stuff, and they didn't do that unless they expect something in return. And I bet you there was a shopping list that went with those gifts.
Oh yeah, there. I mean, that's the art of the steal. I mean, there's not the art of the deal. This guy is as grifty as they get, and the only way you can look at it is what's in it for him, and he doesn't want people to know what he's doing, and he doesn't want people to know all the money that's coming his way. He's a master at hiding transactions through shell companies, family members. I mean, there's 1,000 ways to hide the money, but it's the old adage, follow the money and you'll know where the corruption is, because money is corruption. And when you're playing at that level, 400 million, like, holy wow. I mean, something really had to go down across the table to make that deal happen, because there's no way you'd give Trump or his family a $400 million gold-plated plane. I mean, I'm like you. I'd sure love to know what was going on behind closed doors.
Anyways, my
Okay.
headset is about to
Okay, I'll let you go.
Run out of subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and please share the video. Don't be afraid to share this commercial with your friends too.